Fabrizo Romano confirms that Manuel Ugarte to Manchester United is imminent, with PSG having apparently reduced their asking price. Plus, 2 players have been sold and have left the club today. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this afternoon's show. But before we get into that, please do me one small favour. Smash a like on today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And let's get straight on into it. Right, let's start the show off with 2 players who have left the club today. Let's start with Maxi Oyedel. Probably said his name wrong. I do apologise. He was from the youth academy. Very, very talented. Somebody who I think had the potential to break through into the first team at Manchester United. Maybe not this year, but maybe in the next couple of years. But this is coming out from Fabrizo Romano. He is reporting in the last couple of minutes that Warsaw in Poland have agreed a deal to sign Maxi Oyedel from Manchester United on a permanent transfer. It says there will be a significant sell-on clause. He is already in Poland doing his medical. So he's a 19-year-old, as I said, obviously come through the Manchester United Youth Academy. Somebody who was touted to, break through into the first team at some point. Yeah, he actually, interestingly enough, has Polish citizenship, so I guess that makes a lot of sense. Been here since he was a kid. And the interesting thing about this one is the fee apparently isn't going to be a massive amount of money, just around €1 million, but there is going to be a buyback option. And there is going to also be a sell-on clause. And I actually wanted to focus a little bit of the show on this because it seems like Manchester United's tactic has changed in recent years. Because before, we would just let our youth players go for nothing. They would leave, right? The last 2 or 3 youth players who have left, so obviously this guy, Alvaro Fernandez, Will Fish, who we'll talk about in a minute, and Pellistri, all of those deals, we have an option to buy them back within 3 years. We also have a sell-on clause of around 50% on every single one of those transfers. So the situation is this, right? They go off, they get regular football in another league. If they do well, we can then bring them back. If they don't do well, then they're not our problem. And if they do well and we don't want to bring them back, we'll still make 50% of the transfer fee. So I actually think this is really, really clever business. And I know, people keep referring to Man City who sell their youth players for 15 million who we've never heard of. But none of those deals actually have any of these clauses in. So I think what Manchester United are doing is they're letting their best youth players go who they think aren't ready to break through into the first team yet and want first team football, and players whose contracts are kind of starting to run down to an end, like Pellistri, a couple of others as well. They're letting them move on, go and get first team football, and then if they do well, they'll bring them back. And we have the option to do that. The same with Alvaro Fernandez, who's doing well at Benfica. We've got a buyback clause there, so we can bring him back at any point. And if he doesn't do well, then we don't have to bring him back. So I actually think it's quite clever. It's clearing, players out of the club. It's reducing wages. It's reducing squad sizes. And I've got no problem with it. So he has just joined Warsaw in Poland. I wish him all the best. I hope he achieves everything that we hoped of him. And then the other one, which I thought was really, really interesting, is Will Fish. So this is coming out from the BBC. And they're reporting that Manchester United will receive £2 million from Cardiff for Will Fish, who is joining on a permanent deal. The BBC are reporting that Will Fish is due to have his Cardiff medical later on today. 2 million. I'm not going to complain about that, to be honest. 2 million, and we also have this buyback clause, and we also have this sell-on clause as well. I mean, 2 million is quite a lot, I think, for somebody who I don't think was ever going to make it into the first team. When you think we paid 12.8 for Mazraoui, and we've just sold a youth player who I honestly don't think was ever going to break through into the first team for 2 million. Now, I know people will be like, well, Man City sold somebody who you've never heard of for 20 million. I get it. It's frustrating, but we are doing better in the window. We are doing better under Ineos. And I think, to move on these young players, to give them a chance in their career, opposed to keeping them at Manchester United with no hope of them actually breaking into the team. Let them go, get the money into the bank. If they do well in the future, we can bring them back. If they do well in the future and we don't want to bring them back and they get a move to a bigger club, we'll get half of the money. So for me, it's win-win. I actually applaud Ineos for this. I think it's clever. I see no point in just hoarding youth players in the academy if we're not going to give them a chance in the first team. Kobe's broken through, Toby Collier has, Garnacho has. These are all clearly the best players from the youth academy, and all of these others that we've discussed are all kind of on the level a little bit below it. So yeah, I wish them all the best. Will Fish is gone, and Maxi Oyedel has also gone as well to Warsaw. So that's 2 players out of the club today, both confirmed, both done deals, and yeah, so fair play to them. Moving on from that though, I want to talk a little bit about Manuel Ugarte, the big topic, the one that everyone is completely obsessed about at the moment. And I've got a question for you. If Manchester United sign Manuel Ugarte, where do you think we should finish in the league this season? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, because somebody asked me this exact question on our live show this morning, and I thought it was a really good question because they asked me this. They said, Kieran, if we sign Manuel Ugarte, does that mean we have to get top 4? That's what he said to me. And I thought that was a great question. So I'm going to ask you that. If Manchester United complete the deal for Manuel Ugarte, which it looks like we will, I'll give you all of the latest news on that in a minute. What is your expectation then? Does your expectation change? Maybe at the moment you're thinking we're going to finish 5th, but with him we're going to finish 3rd. Like, let me know what you think in the comment section. I'll give you my answer in a couple of minutes' time. But in relation to the news that just broke in the last couple of minutes, this is coming out from Fabrizo Romano. He's reporting that Manchester United and PSG are now very close to completing a deal for Manuel Ugarte. He says negotiations are now at the final stages. A positive meeting took place between Manchester United and PSG last night. So he's effectively saying that this deal will be done very, very soon. I've got some more news as well. Sky Sports are reporting that an agreement on many aspects of a deal for Manuel Ugarte is now understood to be agreed between Manchester United and PSG. Sky Sports are reporting that there was a big gap in valuation earlier on in the window, but both clubs have found room to compromise on the price. So that's Sky Sports. We've also had, obviously, Fabrizo. And then also we have Fabrizo saying that the deal is now at the final stages. So it's going to be announced very, very soon, I think. Like, this will go through. There's no reason why it won't go through now. The only way that this deal won't happen is if somebody comes and tries to hijack it, in my opinion. You know, that's the only way. But yeah, I don't think that will happen, to be honest. And I think we will get our man. And I think Manuel Ugarte will make a massive difference to our team. Now, in relation to the question I asked you a couple of minutes ago, I think with Manuel Ugarte, we should be getting top 4, definitely. But if we have another injury crisis like we did last season, I think we'll finish anywhere between 6th and 10th. And the reason for that is simple. We don't have squad depth yet. This summer was about bringing in first-team players. And Manchester United have done that. De Ligt starting centre-back, Mazraoui starting right-back, Ugarte starting CDM, Xerxes a starting striker. Like, all of the players we've signed this summer are players who will probably play in the first team, right? We haven't bought any real squad depth. And if you look at our bench now at the moment, and you look at the bench that we had against Fulham on the weekend, I know we have a few players injured still, but we have to work on the assumption that we're always going to have 3 or 4 players injured. At the moment, Højlund, Luke Shaw, Malacia, Lenny Yoro and Lindelof are injured. So we've got 5 players injured. I think most teams will have about 5 players injured all throughout the season. That's probably a fair assumption, right? Our bench on the weekend was McTominay, Johnny Evans, De Ligt, Eriksen, Toby Collier, Anthony, Xerxes and Garnacho. I'd say maybe 2 or 3 or 4 of those players are kind of good enough to have for squad depth. But Eriksen, Johnny Evans, McTominay, I mean, maybe McTominay's all right to have as a bench player, but you get what I'm saying here, right? Imagine if we lose Martinez and we lose, say, Bruno Fernandes through injury. Then you're going to be looking at probably, at the moment, Johnny Evans coming on, or you're going to be looking at maybe McTominay coming on, or Eriksen. And your level goes from up here, where I genuinely think our first team at the moment could compete with anybody. We beat Man City in the FA Cup final, right? Our first team on paper, I genuinely think is very, very good. But the problem is injuries, and the problem is the squad depth. You look at Man City's team, and their B team will beat most of the teams in the Premier League. You know, they'd beat probably any team below 6th or 7th, I think Man City would beat. Their bench, that is. Whereas Manchester United's bench, I think, would struggle against most teams in the Premier League. You know, if your bench was... Imagine Man United's team was Johnny Evans, Maguire, Eriksen, Toby Collier, Anthony, Bayinda. Like, to me, that's like a mid-table team, maybe even bottom half of the Premier League team. So, in short, I think Manchester United, if we have a season with few injuries, can easily get top 4. Easy if we sign Manuel Ugarte. But yeah, it all just depends on how our luck goes and depends on whether we have another injury crisis. And, you know, there's so many different factors that make it difficult. But I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling positive. And I just hope that Manuel Ugarte is here by the time we play Liverpool a week on Saturday, I think it is. Like, we need him for that game desperately. So yeah, hopefully he's in training by the beginning of next week, and hopefully then he's available to play against Liverpool in that massive game. Because I think if we get a result against Brighton, we've got to go into that game against Liverpool and go for a win, 100%. But let me know your thoughts on everything. I'm going to wrap the video up here. I will be back at 6 p.m. for a longer live show. Please make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Daily Red Devil. Have a lovely afternoon, everybody, and I'll speak to you all at 6 o'clock. Bye for now.